The episode opens with Ethan Burke, a Secret Service agent, waking up after a car crash. He finds himself in the woods near a stream, and after getting himself on his feet, he slowly starts walking and finds his way into a rustic town known as Wayward Pines in Idaho. However, he soon collapses and wakes up in a hospital where Nurse Pam greets him when he gains consciousness. She seems chirpy even when Ethan asks about his partner, Agent Stallings, the terrible driver who couldn't keep his eyes on the road, but Pam tells him he didn't make it before resuming talking in her excessively chirpy manner. Meanwhile, the Secret Service headquarters in Seattle, Washington, decides to take over the investigation of Ethan and Stallings' car accident. They are not happy that they were informed about the accident 2 days after it happened, in which Stallings lost his life by burning to death, and Ethan is still missing. They assume the worst and decide to call their families. Ethan's wife, Teresa, and their son, Ben, are out for a walk when Teresa gets a call from the headquarters. Ethan's colleague, Agent Adam, tells Teresa about the accident. Back at Wayward Pines, Ethan finds it odd that he hasn't seen anybody else in the hospital besides overly cheerful Nurse Pam, making it creepier. After a stare-off with Pam, who doesn't want Ethan to leave, Ethan successfully makes it out of the hospital and goes to the sheriff's department to get his things back. But finding it closed, he decides to go to a nearby bar to borrow a phone. There he meets a bartender, Beverly, who gives him a phone and offers him food. They soon start talking, and he tells Beverly he has come to Wayward Pines to investigate the missing case of his former partner, Cade Hewson, and Agent Bill Evans. Secret Service doesn't mean secretive, okay? Beverly doesn't recall seeing any new faces, but she gives him her address in case he is lost. The next day, Ethan visits the address Beverly gave him, but when he reaches there, he finds a dilapidated house. Upon going inside, he finds the unrecognizable corpse of Agent Evans that he instantly recognizes as Agent Evans on the bed. It seems he was tortured before he was left to die. Ethan immediately meets Arnold, the sheriff, who is enjoying his ice cream. He remains nonchalant after hearing out Ethan and coldly brushes him off. With no one ready to help him, he goes to find Beverly but gets into an altercation with a bar manager and ends up in a hospital after the manager knocks him out. At the hospital, he meets Dr. Jenkins, who tries to persuade Ethan to undergo surgery as Ethan's MRI shows bleeding in his brain, leading to a dissociative breakdown in his memory. Beverly reaches the hospital at the right time to save Ethan before he loses consciousness because he is sedated. Ethan wakes up the next day in an abandoned building and finds a new set of clothes and shoes left for him. He dresses up and goes to the town where he runs into Kate. In a flashback, we see Ethan was romantically involved with Kate. Ethan follows Kate to her house and tries talking to her, but she refuses to recognize him. Ethan is perplexed to see Kate has grown significantly older since the last time he saw her, which was 5 weeks ago. However, Kate says she's been living there for 12 years now. Before leaving, she hints that they are being watched, and Ethan notices cameras all over the town. Confused with what is happening, Ethan decides to leave the town, but soon finds the town's acreage circumscribed by huge walls and an electric fence with copious warning signs that warn of dire consequences for whoever wishes to go beyond that point. Arnold, who had been following Ethan, apprehends him and brings him back to town. He warns Ethan against trying to leave town. Being in the Secret Service has made Ethan thick-skinned and probably thick-skulled, which makes him even more determined to find a way out. So he visits the morgue at the hospital to recover Evan's diary that he saw hidden in his boots. Soon after, he meets with Beverly in an abandoned place in the woods, and she tells him everybody in the town has been chipped, so their movements can be tracked. Ethan does a minor operation on himself to take the chip out of his calf and keeps it in his pocket. Ethan is curious to know when Beverly first arrived in town. She says in 1999 and believes only 1 year has passed since then. But Ethan tells her that the year is actually 2014. The town's mysteries keep getting deeper as Beverly tells him that she tried escaping with Evans, but he was caught before they could execute their plan, and he was publicly executed by Arnold, who slit his throat. Since then, people have been scared to leave. Ethan is more than determined to get out of the town, and together with Beverly, he decides to use the map Evans created to escape. But just before they are about to escape, Kate and her husband, Harold, get suspicious and inform the authorities. Suddenly, all the phones in the town start ringing, and community policing commences as the two get chased by the townfolk. And Beverly started walking nonchalantly on the street instead of hiding, so she gets captured and executed. Ethan survives the predicament because Kate keeps Ethan's involvement in the escape plan a secret. Back in Seattle, Teresa and Ben are exhausted trying to find Ethan. With no help from headquarters and no information about Ethan, Teresa makes the decision to visit Boise, Idaho. She knows that Ethan has had a history with Kate and wants to know if Ethan has abandoned his family for that woman or is dead. After Beverly's execution, Arnold delivers a speech, and the brainwashed citizens agree to everything he says as if it is the dictum. Meanwhile, Ethan hides in a food truck that takes him into a facility where he finds Teresa's car. It seems that they had an accident, but before he could find anything more, Arnold appears out of nowhere and sedates him. He wakes up in a hospital again, where Nurse Pam tells him his family is waiting for him at home. Ethan knows where to look and heads to Beverly's old house, where she is reunited with Teresa and Ben. They had been in an accident after Arnold tampered with their car before they found themselves in the town. Ethan doesn't disclose anything right away as he knows they are being heard and asks them to stay in the house. Ben doesn't trust his dad as he's aware of Ethan's affair and decides to follow him and finds him meeting with Kate. Ben returns with the news, and having had enough of Ethan's deception, Teresa and Ben leave. They pack their bags and start on foot, but are soon followed by Arnold, who chases them to the electric fence. With nowhere further to go, he threatens Teresa and punches Ben to take revenge for Ethan's audacity to go against him, but Ethan arrives on time and manages to subdue Arnold. However, Arnold reaches for his gun, and as he's about to shoot, Ben runs him over by his own truck. Ethan finishes Arnold by shooting him and takes his keys, which opens the gate in the fence. As soon as they get in the car, to their horror, a creature comes inside and drags Arnold's body. They quickly shut the gate and drive back to the town as the howling of many creatures being zapped by the electric fence haunts them for quite a distance. Once they reach back, Ethan tells them everything that has happened since he arrived in town, and they agree to play along to survive. The next day, Ethan visits the sheriff's department to procure some weapons when suddenly the mayor arrives and congratulates him on becoming the new sheriff. He is soon assigned his first task of punishing or bringing reckoning to the third-time offender, Peter, a revolutionary who defaced public property with graffiti to bring out the truth about the town. While interviewing him, Ethan finds that in the year 2001, Peter had a fling with a woman he met at a bar, and the next day, when he woke up, he found himself in the motel in Wayward Pines, and the woman he had slept with had suddenly aged. It was revealed that it was Pam. This is what's referred to as post-nut clarity. Meanwhile, Ben starts school and befriends Amy. He doesn't realize that his teacher, Megan, was a hypnotherapist before she moved to Wayward Pines and is using her skills to brainwash him. That night, Ethan decides to help Peter by hiding him in the woods, but Peter knows he won't survive anyway. So he sacrifices himself to help Ethan survive and throws himself on the electric fence, killing him instantly. Ethan feels he needs to get his family out of that hellhole, and after telling Teresa about his plan, he leaves for Boise to get some help and climbs a cliff to reach the outside. Unbeknownst to him, a humanoid figure watches him from behind a tree. Meanwhile, in Wayward Pines, Ben gets an orientation where he, along with his two other students, gets introduced to Abbies or aberrations, the product of a series of genetic mutations who evolved in a harsh environment and are now the single most efficient carnivores on the planet. Ben is flabbergasted to hear that Abbies were once humans. As mysteries unravel like an onion peel, all three students realize they were in car accidents just before arriving in Wayward Pines. Their teacher, Megan, gives them coins, which turns out to be quarters from the year 2095. She reveals that the quarters are the last known relics of the human civilization that went extinct 2,000 years ago. As a final blow, she reveals it is the year 4028, and the children are the chosen ones who were kept in hibernation, handpicked to become the first generation of the Wayward Pines as a means to preserve humanity. In the meantime, Ethan and Teresa also get their share of revelations about the world around them. Ethan meets David Pilcher, the scientist who created Wayward Pines, better known as Dr. Jenkins, to the residents of Wayward Pines. David takes Ethan to the facility from where the entire Wayward Pines is facilitated. Pam accompanies them, and he gets to know Pam is David's sister. While walking around the facility, Ethan comes face to face with a species that David explains is our distant cousin. After humans started noticing the environmental changes due to the exploitation of natural resources, David's company discovered that the human DNA also mutated to adapt to the changing environment. He tried warning the global community but got dismissed as no one was ready to believe what was happening. With nobody to support his idea, David took it upon himself to save a few and get them abducted in the name of preserving humanity. With the selected few, David and others went to sleep for 2,000 years, which, according to David's algorithms, would have been enough time for the planet to thrive after all the humans had died out and stopped destroying it. Ethan believes that David should disclose the truth, but David says it wouldn't work as prior to the current residents, he had Batch A to whom he told everything as soon as they woke up, only for them to succumb to the pressure of living in fear. So David devised a plan to gradually introduce the people to the truth by giving them enough time to adapt, and thus comes the role of the first generation. Back at Wayward Pines, the decision to keep the adults in the dark about the truth of their world is proving dangerous as Kate and Harold plan an upheaval by building a bomb. Ethan takes it upon himself to stop these people from jeopardizing everybody's lives and strategically apprehends Kate and her group for planting a bomb on the fence. But things take a turn for the worse when Ethan realizes they have built another bomb that Harold passed onto the supply truck driver to plant on the fence, but it goes off sooner than anticipated after Amy and Ben sneak into the truck for a fun ride and accidentally activate the bomb. By the time Ethan catches up to them, Ben and Amy become victims of the blast. Ethan immediately rushes Ben to the hospital, and Pam assures him that Ben will receive the utmost care as the children are their most valuable resource. However, Megan believes Ethan is not doing his job as a sheriff by showing leniency towards the perpetrators. She visits Ben in the hospital and tries to persuade him to follow the policy of severe punishment for those trying to destroy their haven, now that people will be willing to listen to Ben, who has inadvertently become an attack survivor. David has started to suspect someone from his team is helping the citizens of Wayward Pines because with 20-hour surveillance, it would not have been possible for mutineers to act on their plans. He soon finds out that one of the guys in his surveillance team has been erasing footage because he feels that the citizens at least have a right to ask questions, even if they cannot divulge the truth. To his shock, his sister Pam also keeps this information from him. The problems don't end for David as Harold and one of his teammates steal a dump truck to break through the fence. Although Harold changes his mind and gets down, the other guy continues and breaks through the fence only to be eaten alive by the Abbeys. And now, with a way to get in, the Abbeys crawl under the truck and into the perimeter of Wayward Pines. However, Ethan reaches there on time to do damage control and kills them before David's men arrive to fix the fence. Back at the hospital, Pam decides to let Teresa discover the truth by handing her the pass to the facility. Meanwhile, Amy's health deteriorates, which sends the students from the Wayward Academy into a frenzy, and the class leader takes matters into his own hands. He, along with two other students, rushes to the sheriff's office and shoots Harold and three other members of the group of insurgents. But as he is about to shoot Kate, Ethan arrives after seeing them on surveillance and shoots down the class leader. As Kate and Ethan decide what to do next, Teresa arrives at the department and asks Ethan and Kate to accompany her. She takes them to the underground facility that has records that they are, in fact, in the year 4028, and there were groups of people who went in search of the cities but never made it. Kate and Teresa finally realize Ethan was telling the truth all along, and they devise a plan to tell the people of the community. Ethan uses David to call everybody for Kate's reckoning, and once everybody is there, Ethan tells them the truth about the world and what a control freak David is. Kate, Teresa, and a few others back Ethan's claims. As everybody stares in disbelief that the world they remember is gone, David, who has been watching all this on his computer screen, turns off the electricity of the whole town, including the electricity on the fence. Since he lost control over the people, David plans to let them all die as he sees a swarm of Abbeys making their way in. He plans to restart his experiment with Group C, who are currently in hibernation after the Abbeys have migrated. When Pam finds out about his plan, she tries to talk some sense into him, but he gets her and his staff arrested by his guards and sees the downfall of Wayward Pines. Meanwhile, Ethan and Kate's team start working together and put up a fight against Abbeys. They manage to get a few survivors to the bunker, and after making Megan realize that David is not going to save them, she gives in and tells them about the tunnels connecting the bunker to the main facility in the mountains. They all make it to the lift, and after Kate and Ethan take care of the guards, they send the citizens to the facility. Ben, Teresa, and a few others remain behind because the lift crosses its capacity and wait for their turn. However, the Abbeys enter the bunker and chase them, exacerbating their situation. Meanwhile, Kate reaches David's chamber and asks him to switch on the electricity, but when he refuses, Pam appears from behind and shoots David dead. Ethan gets back in the lift, and after taking down a few Abbeys, gets the remaining people in the lift. Somehow, the lift stops midway, and they are left with no choice but to climb the rest of the way with the help of a ladder. Ethan sends everybody and waits for the Abbey so he can use the last of the detonators to finish them all at once. As the Abbeys make their way up, Ethan thinks of his family one last time before he detonates the bomb and dies, taking all the Abbeys down with him. After hearing the blast, Ben peeks in the shaft, calling out to his father when a metal piece falls from above and strikes him on his head, rendering him unconscious. Ben wakes up to Amy's sound, addressing him as Mr. Burke. He is confused and disoriented and asks Amy what is going on. She tells him he has been asleep for more than 3 years. Baffled, he walks out and finds Wayward Pines full of young couples and their children. In a turn of events, the students of the Wayward Academy survived because David had arranged for an emergency. They overtook the reins of the town after putting all the adults to sleep and now govern the town on the ideologies of David. And that's a wrap for the series recap. Thanks for watching.